I went to Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Parks in early May to see what wildlife I could film there, but I had no idea how incredible this adventure was going to be. Immediately upon arrival in Grand Teton, the wildlife was everywhere. There are so many different kinds of wild animals you can encounter here, and it's exciting every time you find one. Being here in early May, it was still very cold and snowy, and towards the end of the first day filming here, more snowstorms were moving in. But just as the weather turned into wet, heavy snow, a black bear emerged from the forest. Seeing a bear in person in the wild is a thrilling experience, and the heavy snowfall added extra excitement to the encounter. This black bear ended up being the first of many bears we would encounter on this adventure, and by the next morning, we spotted a mother grizzly bear with her cub. But these weren't just any grizzly bears. This was Grizzly 399 and her newest cub, Spirit. Grizzly 399 is a legendary bear. At 28 years old, she is the oldest known bear to still be having cubs, and has given birth to generations of grizzly bears. She became famous for her incredible life story and even had a documentary made about her. So it was definitely a privilege to get to see her in person. After exploring other areas, I got a strong feeling that I needed to return to this location that evening, despite another heavy snowstorm moving in. And my feeling was correct. As the snow began to fall, Grizzly 399 and Spirit appeared right below the hill I was standing on. Getting to share these moments with her and her cub was extremely special, and something I will never forget. Tragically, a few months after filming this, Grizzly 399 was struck and killed by a vehicle. Spirit was with her when it happened, but he survived the incident, and we can only hope that he can make it on his own. It's a sad end to the incredible life story of such a historic bear, but her legacy lives on and is carried by the generations of grizzly bears she raised throughout her life. Although it was brief, I am incredibly grateful that I got to witness a part of 399's amazing story. Rest in peace to the Queen of the Tetons. The snow continued the morning of my last day in Grand Teton, and I spent some time with the largest land animals in North America, American bison. These big guys are hard to miss in this area, and I definitely encountered many more of them as this adventure went on. This day, I was also able to find some more elk and these cute little beavers. Before leaving Grand Teton, there was one more kind of animal that I encountered, and it started with hearing strange, loud noises. These are bighorn sheep. The males, which are also known as rams, like to butt heads as a way of establishing dominance. I ended up staying with these guys for a while to watch their very interesting behavior. Soon the sheep made their way back up the mountain, and it was now time to head to Yellowstone. The snowfall got even heavier on the trip there, and I spotted a bison crossing a snowy river. My favorite part about the Yellowstone area is that you could see something amazing around any corner. This area also has many natural wonders, like its huge waterfalls or its geysers and geothermal features. After exploring these unique areas, we spent the rest of this adventure in northern Yellowstone, close to Lamar Valley. This location is also commonly referred to as the Serengeti of the West, and it did not take long to figure out how it got its name. Early the next morning, there were wolves eating off of a bison carcass that was submerged in the icy waters of a pond. I was positioned halfway up a hill, filming the wolves below me. At first, they just seemed to be running around and playing with each other. The gray wolf even came up close to me and made eye contact. But the wolves' behavior quickly changed. They went right past my position and moved further up the hill behind me. And that's when I found out what the wolves were sensing. A grizzly bear mother and her 2 cubs had smelled the carcass and were coming down the hill to eat. I was right in the middle of the action, as now the bears were passing right by my position, heading down to the water. The wolves did not put up much of a fight, and soon they disappeared into the hills on the other side of the valley, leaving the carcass for the bears to take over. With the area now clear of rival predators, the mother grizzly bear began leading her cubs to the carcass. And although one of the cubs was limping, it seemed like it was still able to keep up with its family as they made their way across the pond. Once they reached the carcass, the bears fed for hours, and there was plenty of meat to go around. By midday, the bears seemed to have gotten their fill. For now. I watched as they began making their way up a hillside and out of sight. The events of this morning were an incredible introduction to northern Yellowstone, but the day wasn't over yet, and before long, I spotted another black bear. And this one was in a tree. This black bear had a unique white patch on her chest, and it turned out she was a mom who was waiting for her cub to follow her out of the tree. This day was full of wildlife sightings, like this pronghorn antelope standing on top of a grassy hill, and another black bear. This bear was sleeping next to the trail I was on when I noticed him. He got up and literally walked right past me. But luckily, he seemed very unbothered by me being there, and was much more interested in all the grass he was eating. That evening, I went back to check on the pond with the bison carcass, and it was perfect timing because the grizzly bear family was now coming back for dinner. The grizzly cubs finished their meal by nursing from their mom, and by the next morning, the bears were still here, now covered in frost. It was so cold this morning that my camera actually started to freeze. And after filming the bears for a while, it became clear that they weren't going to leave the carcass for a long time. It was hard to leave a current grizzly bear sighting, but I decided to take a chance on leaving this area to see if I could find any other animals. And I ended up finding an antelope carcass that was being eaten by a bald eagle. This carcass would set the stage for possibly the greatest wildlife encounter of the trip. The birds were the first to spot the carcass from the air, but soon a pack of coyotes were also attracted to the scent. They took over eating the body and even challenged the bald eagle. The coyotes had claimed the antelope carcass for themselves, but it wouldn't last for long. Someone else had gotten the smell and was on their way to eat. A grizzly bear was heading right for the carcass, but the coyotes did not want to share, so they began a chase. At first, it looked like the coyote's chase was working, but then it seems like the bear realized he was the top predator here. Now there was nothing the coyotes could do as the bear made its way to the carcass. coyotes came to the scene, but at this point, it was clear no one was taking the carcass away from this bear. The confrontation between the coyotes and the grizzly bear lasted until the sun completely set and there was no light left to film with. It was the last great wildlife encounter of this trip and was an incredible grand finale. Coming to Yellowstone and Grand Teton in early May resulted in many awesome wildlife encounters and an adventure that was more amazing than I ever could have imagined.